last year or the year before, I was really excited when I saw that the Barbie movie, which was directed by a woman, Greta Gerwig, got nominated for Best Picture. And this year, when I was watching the Emmys, for the first time in Emmy history, 5 out of the 6 directors nominated for Best Director were women. And I was super excited about that too, but I was also kind of nostalgic, regretful, remorseful. It was an icky, weird feeling. Because here's the thing, I wanted to be a director when I was younger. That was the dream. So much so that I went to NYU and studied film, and when I graduated from NYU, I went to work in New York City in the feature film industry, planning to work my way up, the old-fashioned way, work my way up the ladder to become a director one day. Now, I joined the film industry at the bottom of the AD department, the assistant director department, as a production assistant. And the way that ladder works is you work your way up to eventually becoming the first assistant director. And then, if you're very good at your job and you're a team player and you work really hard, 10, 20, 30 years later, eventually you may be able to direct something. Now, most directors get there because they have money or they have connections, right? But I was doing it the long haul way, and the film industry in general is also about connections. It's about knowing people because it's a gig job, right? So you work on a movie for 3 to 6 months, and when the movie wraps, if you've done a good job and if you're a team player, they pick you up and they invite you to come work on another movie and then another movie and then another movie. And if you're not a good worker and you're not a team player, you just quietly go away. But here's the thing, I'm a very good worker. I am a hard worker. I have never been afraid to work an 18-hour day, 6 days a week. That was fine with me when I was 20 years old, And I was young. This was the 1990s. I was a young woman in New York City. Of course, I was going to be a team player. And you know what that means? In the 1990s, it means, not talking about the above-the-line people, the directors, the producers, the actors, not talking about their bad behavior. You don't do that. When you're a team player, you keep that stuff to yourself. You keep that stuff to the team. And when you're a team player, you support your team. You do whatever is needed to make sure that the people in your department are supported. And I was all in for that. I understood the unspoken rules. And I was good at that too. And in the AD department, the assistant director department, we are the managers of the set. You got your camera people, you got your sound people, you got your lighting people, and then we're the ones who tell everyone what to do. And they love us for that. But it's all about organization, right? So the first assistant director is on set. She or he is the person who is the right hand of the director. The director says, this is what I want to make happen, and the AD says, okay, this is what we're going to make happen, and then that trickles down to the rest of the AD department. And I was really good at that. So I worked a lot. And I worked a lot with 2 ADs in particular. I worked with Jude a lot, and I loved Jude. She was this powerful woman. She was really serious. She was really freaking good at her job, man, and I loved that about her, and I especially loved that she really respected people who were good at their job, and she was great at supporting her team. And she supported me because she recognized that I was good at my job. So she is the first person who gave me my first promotion. She made me a key PA, a key production assistant, and I am always going to be grateful to her for that. And then I worked a lot with Adam, and I loved Adam. He was really good at his job too, and he was not serious. He was just a lot of fun, which is it's a different take on being an AD because most of them are very serious, but he was a lot of fun to hang out with, and he gave me a lot of jobs as a PA, but he had his team that he liked to work with. You know, there was Greg and there were a couple other guys, and Greg, I just couldn't stand. Greg was not good at his job. Greg was a screw up. Greg was a bruh, you know? And Adam and Greg were like best friends, and the first time I worked with Greg, he was a screw up as a key PA, and then the next time I worked with Greg, he was a screw up as a second, and then I got hired by Adam when I was already a key production assistant, and you don't go back down the ladder, so he brought me on as a key PA, and Greg, for the first time in Greg's life, was a second assistant director, which is a huge job. It is the job responsible for all of the outside of set scheduling. So on set, the director and the AD say, these are the scenes we're shooting, and then offset, the second assistant director makes that happen. They schedule the crew that need to be there. They schedule the locations. They schedule the props and the actors and all of that stuff. It's a huge organizational nightmare. And this was a Peter Falk movie, and on day one on set, it started going downhill fast. It was very clear that Greg was not qualified as the second assistant director, and we all felt it because things weren't going well. But here's one of the unspoken rules of working in movies: you do not abandon a sinking ship. You support your team, you stay on the boat as the boat goes down. So I was hanging in there. I was doing my job. I was there for it. And by like day 3, this usually happy family, because we are all team players, started to get really, really unhappy. And there started to be a lot of yelling. Adam, who was generally a fun guy, was yelling at everybody, and all the crew were yelling at each other. And here's the thing. Normally, as a key PA, when I worked with Jude, I was Jude's right-hand woman. So I'd be right beside her on set the whole time, and she needed something done, and I would make sure it got done. But what was happening on this movie, on Adam's movie, is he needed something done, and he would call for Greg. And Greg was already dropping the ball left and right on trying to do his own job, and then on top of that, he's going into set to help Adam, and I saw an opportunity. I knew I could do this. I knew I could help. I thought I could fix the problem, so I went to Adam directly and I said, listen, man, I am here. Tell me what you need. I can help. I help Jude all the time. Let me know what you want done. And he said, no, Greg really wants this, and I want to make sure that he learns the ropes because he wants to be a first AD. And I'm a team player, so I let him run his show the way he wanted to run it. And later that night, I was hanging out at the craft services table, that's the snack table, because that's where I had been relegated to. I had very little work to do, and I'm hanging out at the craft services table, and Peter Falk comes off set. And I normally spend a lot of time with the actors. On this movie, I hadn't spoken a word to the guy. And for you youngsters, he plays the grandpa in The Princess Bride. And so I'm hanging out by the craft services table, and Peter Falk comes out, and I could sense a storm is a brewing, and he just starts yelling and cursing, and he didn't flip the table, but it was that kind of energy, and I've seen enough of that energy in my life, and on this job in particular, to just know that I needed to let it blow over. So I just kind of backed away and let it run its course. And when he had calmed down and taken some calming breaths, I just stepped forward and I said, Mr. Falk, is there anything I can do to help? Do you need anything? And he looked at me as if he had just seen me for the first time and just realized someone had seen his little temper tantrum. And he said, yeah, no, I'm sorry. That wasn't about you. I'm sorry about that. And then he just kind of slunk back to set. And I honestly felt bad that I didn't get to help the guy. Well, the next day, I got a page because this is the late 90s, mind you. So for those of you, again, who are youngsters, that is before we had cell phones. We had this thing that was as big as a cell phone, and all it could do on the huge screen was show you a number of a phone that was trying to reach you. And then you had to go back to a physical phone that was attached to a wall somewhere and call the number on the pager. So I got paged. I knew it was from Jude, but I had to wait until the next day to call her back. And I call her back the next morning, and she says, "Jessica, I'm starting on a new movie next week. I want you to come work with me. I want you to be my second assistant director," which is another promotion, right? It's another move up that ladder. And I was so excited for about 2 seconds, and then I said, "Oh, I can't. I'm working on this disaster of a movie with Adam." And she says, "Listen, this is a good opportunity for you. Adam is a good guy. I know him. Tell him. I guarantee he'll be okay with it. You know, he can find someone to replace you. You got to come take this job." And I said, "All right, I'll try." So I go to work, and when the first opportunity comes up, when things are kind of calm, I go and I seek out Adam and I say, "I have this opportunity to be a second assistant director. This is my dream." And he says, "You're working on this movie." And I say, "No, I know, and I so appreciate that, but like, I have this other opportunity. Like, you have to see this as a good..." And he says, "Well, I mean, you can take it if you want, but don't expect me to hire you again." And that's how this industry works. And I want to work in this industry again, so I just kind of sit with that. Well, later that day, we're wrapping up this location in New Jersey. We're shooting at a suburban house. And then the plan is to move from the house to an apple orchard, where we're going to shoot some magic hour shots outside. So, you know, around sunset, we're going to shoot this beautiful scenery outside. So Greg comes to me somewhere in the middle of the day and says, "Jessica, we're running a little late. We still need to get to the apple orchard. I want you to take, you know, these crew people and these, you know, this equipment, and take them in the van and head to the orchard and get set up, and we'll come there when we're ready." And I'm like, "All right, that's cool. I get this responsibility, right?" So me and the crew that he's told me to take, we all get in the crew van, and they drive us about 40 minutes away to this apple orchard. And it's this is a beautiful October evening. It's the middle of the week, so there's no one there. It's just basically like a paved, empty parking lot on the top of a hill with an apple orchard behind us, and like beautiful scenery. If you don't know, New Jersey does have some beautiful rolling hills. It's gorgeous. And they drop us off and they drive away because they need the crew van. And none of us have cell phones, remember. So we have no way of reaching anyone. And they drive away and they leave me and about 6 other people there. And we get set up in about 10 minutes because there's only so much they could set up. And then we wait. And we wait. And the sun gets lower. And we wait some more. And at first I'm kind of like, okay, this is stressing me out because there's things that need to be done, and I am an important person and I need to be working at all times. And then as it becomes clear that there's nothing we can do there, I just kind of start to relax. And me and the other crew who are abandoned in this parking lot, we just sit down on the parking lot and we start talking, and we start enjoying the crisp air and the smell of apples and the beautiful view of the setting sun. And there's nothing we can do. We cannot contact anyone. We are just alone. And it was the best, most relaxing 4 hours I had working on this movie of the whole experience, because for once no one was yelling. And around, 9 o'clock at night, a van shows up, and Adam steps out and he says, "Get in the van." And we all get in the van, and it's very clear we're not shooting anything at this point. And Adam is just so pissed. Not at Greg, who scheduled this disaster, but at life, at the universe, at me, at everything other than his buddy. And I am a team player. But at this point, I say enough. And the next day, I tell Adam, goodbye. And over the next few years, I work a lot. I am still a good worker. I'm still a team player. I get hired by 80 after 80 after 80, and I work with a lot of people, but I never, ever work with Adam again, because he is good to his word. But I work with Jude a lot. And in fact, when I finally decided I was out of there and didn't want to work in the film industry anymore, she called me up right after I'd made this decision, and she said, Jessica, hold your horses. I want you to come work on a movie with me and be my second AD, which is the next step up. And I really thought about it because I really wasn't quite ready to quit, but then I said, no, I'm done. I'm out of here. And I think about that decision a lot, and I sometimes regret it, and I sometimes feel good about it, and then something like the Barbie movie getting nominated comes up, and I start to feel all weird about it, and then something like those 5 directors getting nominated comes up, and I start to feel weird about it, but here's the thing. If I had said yes, maybe I would be a movie director right now. I don't know. Who knows, right? And maybe I would have directed a movie that got nominated for Best Picture, but here's the thing about the Oscars and the Academy. Most of the people on the Academy are men. So Barbie got nominated. The female director did not. And those 5 women directors who all got nominated for the first time in Emmy history, well, the 6th one, the man, is the one who won. Yeah. So, I feel like we've come a long way. But I think until the Academy, Hollywood, and the world at large embraces a little bit of DEI, I think we have a long way yet to go.